Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blacksher, broadcasting to you live from the city of diversity, Oakland, California. And yes, folks, I am in Oakland today, Oakland, California. We have some great news to report. Ray Bobbitt, founder of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, AASEG, and previous show guests on September 16, 2021, had overwhelming support at the Oakland City Council November 16, 2021. Yay! Whoa! Yes, history right here in Oakland, just like the Black Panthers and every other thing that creates culture and diversity in the United States starts right here in Oakland, California. Who had bad news? Dave Stewart, as he went down in flames due to positive support for the African American Sports and Entertainment Group and the first Black owned sports franchise coming closer to a reality, to real. I mean, audience, put your arm around that. Right here in Oakland, the first Black sports group, 100% Black owned, right here in Oakland. They now have 1 year to come to an agreement, as the city owns one half and the A's own one half. Guess who was in the news this week? The Black Business Roundtable and BlackUSA.News. See our interview online from Wednesday, November 17th with Cron TV Bay Area News, cron4.com online. And we'll have the link for you next week, or you can look to my email page, or excuse me, my Facebook page and my LinkedIn, and see that interview that the Black Business Roundtable and BlackUSA.News, as we joined the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, audience, for supporting us and making this happen. Without you, it wouldn't be a us. Thank you. I want to also mention that back in 2017, I spoke in support of the $5 billion Oak No project. Back then, I was the chairman of Labor and Economic Development for the Oakland branch of the NAACP, the National Oakland NAACP. Well, let me give you some heads up on that. In this meeting with City Council yesterday, as of 2021, and I've been taking pictures, as of 2021, I have not seen one Black contractor or business working on this project. Oakno, City of Oakland, City Council, developers, and contractors, be on notice. We are looking at you working on a $5 billion project in the city of Oakland and not having one person of color, specifically African American, women-owned business. If I'm wrong, you can contact me and we can straighten it out. But I believe I'm right. I always bet on Black. Special thanks to our sponsor, Magnolia Engineering and Construction, for their continued support, and we congratulate, once again, Tammy Willis on her continued industry accomplishment. Selected by the Board of Directors of BART for an appointment to BART Audit Committee. Tammy, keep up the great work and make a difference and be the shining light for our sisters out there, African American sisters who are changing this country for the better. Thank you, Tammy Willis. You can visit her website at magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com. Today's show highlights. Today we will discuss what is cryptocurrency, and my fellow podcast host and brother under the Doni Glover and the BlackUSA.News network. We are also welcoming back a previous guest discussing activism, but more so serving a greater purpose of reaching our children through horsemanship. And you know who that is. We will also discuss the issue of redistricting here in our community of Oakland with our social justice warrior. So lean in, audience, so together we can listen, we can learn, and with our discussion today, we can show how we support those many, many Black businesses in this country. Thank you. Our guests today include weekly check-in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Department Chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at University of the West. Dr. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you, Doug.
And my anxiety is a little lower than it was last week because I got my stick right here next to me. You are amazing. The more I think about, it's just a little thing that could make the big difference in our life. So I appreciate you recommending me with the stress reliever. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Our next guest and brother on the podcast network, BlackUSA.News, under Doni Glover, Kamal E Hubbard, Esquire, host of the podcast Black USA Crypto News on on Fridays under the BlackUSA.News network of shows. Kamal Hubbard is a lawyer in training who is certified in fraud examination. Wait, what? Fraud? Didn't somebody just recently become a fraud? You know, this show is going to be hired by the FBI and DA to help clear up all this fraud that Trump left here when he we have a bunch of specialists in fraud examination, cybersecurity, and decentralized finance. Visit www.kamalhubbard.com. That's kamalrhubbard.com. Or on Instagram at Kamal R. Hubbard. And our next special guest, a young lady who reaches back into her community, born, raised here in Oakland. She comes from the 62nd, and I come from the 90s. So we are looking to meet and see again Brianna Noble, founder of Mulatto Metals, along with Humble, an Oakland-based equine program dedicated to positively impacting youth from disenfranchised communities. You may know her better as the Black Cowgirl. Go on, girl. That rode her horse during the George Floyd protest in Oakland, California last year, and later from the Xfinity Mobile commercial on horseback. Visit her website, mulattometal.com. That is mulattometal.com. And our social warrior of justice, Janani Ramachandran. And she continues to fight for the unhoused people here in the Bay Area. She continues in her social justice warrior fighting for Oakland one day at a time. Catch up with Janani anytime at Central Legal de la Raza, website centrallegal.org, or via her website Janani4California.com. That's Janani4CA.com. And Instagram at Janani4CA. Now for the national political highlight. And Val Demings, we're going to reach out to your campaign, and we would love for you to come on our show and let our listeners know how much work you have to do in Florida, but how equipped you are to getting the job done. Val Demings is running for 2022 Florida Senate seat. If you would like to stay updated on Team Demings, text the word JOIN to 77076. That's 77076. She is a strong force and a woman of color. She is the former Orlando police chief seeking to unseat Republican Little Marco Rubio in Florida as he continues to thwart Floridians with perpetuating the big 2020 election lie. Little Marco, pack your little bags, put your little tennis shoes on, and scurry on up out of there. I can see you running too. Oh, I can see you running up out of there, audience. Val Deming for 2022 Senate. Her tagline is Never Tire. Election date November 8th, 2022. Visit valdemings.com. That's valdemings.com or Instagram at valdemings. And now for the news of the day. Dr. Ashley, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Again, the news of the day is courtesy of the Equal Justice Initiative. On this day, November 18th, 1983, a Black man named James Cody was beaten with a flashlight, subjected to electric shock on his testicles and buttocks, and threatened with castration by officers acting under Chicago Police Commander John Berg. Over the course of almost 30 years, the commander oversaw and participated in the torture of over 100 Black men, resulting in scores of forced confessions. When the commander first assumed his role in 1972, he and his men were known notoriously as the Midnight Crew, and they began forcing confessions using brutal torture practices, again, such as beating, suffocation, electric shock, burning, Russian roulette, and mock execution. In 1982, Cook County State's Attorney Richard Daley was notified of the commander's tactics through a letter detailing the abuse of a man named Andrew Wilson, again, who was significantly tortured. Mr. Wilson sued the city in one of the numerous complaints and lawsuits alleging torture by the commander and his men. Despite these complaints, the state attorney's office continued to use confessions obtained by the commander's team to convict and incarcerate dozens of Black men over the next decade. An investigation into the torture allegations was not launched until 1991, again with the initial incident occurring in 1983 and incidents unreported since 1972. Following pressure from advocacy from the community, 2 years later, the commander was fired, and 15 years after that, he was convicted of perjury for lying under oath in one of the civil suits. He served less than 4 years in prison. In 2015, the city of Chicago approved a $5.5 million reparations package for survivors of the commander's alleged torture campaign. The settlement included a formal apology, as well as curricular reforms that would highlight the survivors' stories in schools. Despite the review and reversal of many convictions that were obtained under, they say commander, but I'll say dictatorship, in 2015, more than a dozen survivors remained in prison and had not yet had their cases reviewed. Not easy to hear.
Audience, let's just be clear. When Dr. Ashley, when you were telling that story, you would believe that was 1800s. So sometimes I can be pretty harsh on the racial climate in this country, specifically as it relates to economics and Black economics and Black commerce. But listening to stories like this, it's my job, it's our job, Dr. Ashley, my job to point it out, and your job, Dr. Ashley, to keep people from going crazy while they're enduring all this nonsense. To that end, once again, and now our weekly next up, our weekly check-in with our very own. I try to hog you for myself, Dr. Ashley, but the audience, they're letting me know you can't hog her anymore. You have to share with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And hello to our listeners. There's so much going on in the news. We know that there are trials nearing the end for injustice. We know that Governor Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma recently commuted Julius Jones's death sentence to life without parole, and that's due to advocacy for the people that were in Ground Zero in Oklahoma, as well as African American athletes. So I want to encourage our listeners to go hear about Julius Jones's story and the advocacy that took place in order to, he was set to be executed today, and hours before his execution, it was commuted again to life, to a sentence of life without parole. Again, so much that we're hearing. We know we're dealing with so many personal struggles, community struggles. We know that the cost of living has gone up, the stress has gone up, the pressure to continue to thrive has gone up. And I want to talk about gratitude and grief. Next week, we understand is Thanksgiving, and there's so many meanings of what that is to people. There are legacies and family traditions of foods and coming together. But we also understand that the last 2 years have been a whirlwind, to say the least, and that many of our lives have been impacted in various ways. And that also includes the presence, or should I say absence, but the presence of empty chairs that are not going to be filled potentially by loved ones who have transitioned, who are recovering from illness, and it may not just be safe for them to be around others right now. And I want to talk about grief because grief can produce a lot of emotions. Most people understand that there can be a sadness, but it also can produce feelings of irritability, anger, or numbness. Really want to encourage people that are experiencing, that are bereaved, and they're going through, whether this is your first holiday season without your loved one, or your 15th or 20th holiday season without your loved one. I want to encourage you to take space for what you need. What does that look like? That may look like letting it out emotionally, crying. That may look like working out so that you can get a good sweat in if you want to get physical. That can, yes.
I never interfere or interject when you're talking. So, what I do like, I want to say this, audience, specifically to the men. It's nothing wrong with crying.
No.
Whether you do it in a group or you do it by yourself. And Dr. Ashley, I want to, because I was raised and my dad was raised and his dad was raised. Men don't cry. That shows weakness. Can you briefly talk about men who hold that in? And you can do it after your conversation, but I hear so many men saying, I'm not going to cry. Men, that shows weakness. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Ashley.
No, and you're right. Men don't cry, and neither often do women or Black women. So we have that superwoman, Black woman stereotype as well. I think it's important to know that sometimes too, with bereavement, people can feel numb and not access the ability to cry, or they may feel they're all cried out. I think what you're absolutely highlighting, Doug, is if you feel like you need to cry, cry, but also look for a healthier outlet to let your emotions out. So if it's crying, cry. You need to do that in the shower. You need to do that in the car. Do that. If for some people who want to feel like they've gotten those feelings off of them and get physical or active, we see that with men, but also with women, getting out a good sweat, going for a run, squeezing the ball, um, punching the bag, going to the gym, just thinking of ways to really let it out, and to give yourself permission and to tell people around you if you need space or what you do need. If you're at dinner and it's overwhelming, take a walk. Oh, I need some fresh air. I just need a moment to myself, because there are a variety of emotions that can come up. If you've pushed people away and you've turned down invitations, that's normal too. Some people that are grieving don't want to be bothered. But if you're during that day, if you say, you know what, I do need to be around people, make that call, make that text message. But I just want to reach out to the people that are experiencing grief. And then also, it can be hard right now to find something to be grateful for with all of the pain that is occurring, um, all of the problems that we're noticing that we talk about, even the trauma that we read about from 1983. It can be overwhelming, but research shows that if you can find at least one thing, we try to aim for three, but one thing to be grateful about in the midst of, again, this whirlwind that we've been experiencing for the last 2 years. And some of us have been on different journeys even before the pandemic hit. So this may seem just like more stress and trauma on top of what you were already coping with. But just trying to get through the holiday season, especially Thanksgiving, where there can be a pressure to be on, to feel good. So journaling, using those outlets, understanding that this too shall pass, and just trying your best to get through the day, making the healthiest decisions as possible. So just want to make a plug too about journaling. Sometimes when we can't sleep or we're overwhelmed with things on our mind, it's because journaling can be very helpful to just doodle what you're feeling. It's not an essay. It's not going to be judged by anybody, but it's a way that you can get your worries out, get your feelings out, and give your mind permission to rest through the night.
Thank you once again, Dr. Ashley, for that very valuable and powerful advice. Audience, specifically African American men and women, it is critical, it is life saving, not only for you to get therapy and mental support, but to your kids. And I believe last week I pointed out that I was I attended 2 funerals of young people, and it's I have my daughter's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, baby girl. She really shouldn't say, Dad, don't mention my name. But happy birthday, baby girl, from your daddy who's always loved you. And she's 27, and I'm so proud of her. So happy birthday, LIB. I can say she can say I can say her initial. LIB. Happy birthday, baby. All right, getting back on the show. What you know, when I went to those funerals, Dr. Ashley, and I looked at the parents, and the look in their eyes was like, how did I miss it? What could I have done? Why didn't they come to me? Why did I do that? Maybe that pushed them over the edge. So it's hard to say when they're gone. So reach out now, audience. Reach out now. Dr. Ashley, please sponsor break. Thank you.
Yes. Let me just also just comment quickly, Doug, and just say I rather and encourage our listeners. If you're afraid of how to say it, just say it lovingly to encourage someone to seek help. But would you rather have someone mad at you for suggesting that they receive help than to not say something at all?
And also tell them to watch the show. By the time they can get through listening to you, Dr. Ashley, they'll be calling you up. We'll have to put your number across the screen. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
No problem. I want to thank Mr. Doni Glover of BlackUSA.News and invite our listeners to tune in to Chap and Friends on Mondays and Party Marty Let's Talk on Tuesdays. Special thank you to Magnolia Engineering and Construction, whose vision is to further the presence of Black women in the construction and engineering industry through key partnerships and building contracts in the municipal, government, and transportation sectors. Again, saluting you, Ms. Tammy Willis. And to join our BBRT advertising family, contact us using our email address, bbrt2021@hotmail.com. We have a special announcement inviting our listeners to buy tickets today for Camelot. Tickets are available at www.tickets.mountainplay.org. And we want to acknowledge another one of our previous guests and share about their upcoming performances. So, notable musical performer, Carnegie Hall soloist, author, music director, music researcher, teacher, and classically trained singer extraordinaire, Dr. Philip Harris, is the music director, and also cast as Arthur in Lerner and Lowe's Camelot. And the show days actually begin next week, November 26th through the 28th, and then resuming December 9th, running through December 19th. And as of our show, 5 of these dates have already sold out. 3 dates are still open and 2 have limited tickets. So audience, if you are interested, please, again, contact the venue is the Barn Theater. Again, in Ross, California. Tickets are available through the website. We'll put it up and share it, but I'll say it again, www.tickets.mountainplay.org. COVID protocols are in place. Again, proof of vaccination and other identification is required. So please visit the website for more information and grab your tickets while they're available. Doug, back to you.
Dr. Philip Harris, PhD. I am so proud of you, young brother. He is a man under 40 years old. He's a beacon for Black brothers and sisters to get in an area of music industry that is not typically where Black people want to be. But I've been to some of his plays and some of his musical events, and it is truly magnificent. Truly magnificent. Congratulations, Dr. Philip Harris. Kamal Hubbard, my brother, my fellow podcast host of BlackUSA Crypto News on Fridays under the BlackUSA.News network of shows. Dr. Ashley, can you please read this brother's bios? Because, audience, before she does that, I met Kamal Hubbard about 8 months or 9 months ago, and he is a magnificent human being as well as a businessman. Thank you, Doctor.
Absolutely. Kamal Hubbard is a lawyer by training who is certified in fraud examination, cybersecurity, and decentralized finance. Kamal spent 2 years conducting individual research on Bitcoin and blockchain technology before entering a position in cryptocurrencies. He is a civil rights officer, the founder of the blockchain consulting company Cage Chain Media Group, co-founder of FanMix LLC, serves as an advisor to the Tau Network blockchain, and sits on the board of the North Hollywood-based Outmarket Cryptocurrency Exchange. Mr. Hubbard had the privilege of testifying before California's Senate Banking Committee on the basics of blockchain and Bitcoin. Kamal also served as part of the Blockchain Advocacy Coalition in support of California bills AB 2658 and SB 838, which provided a definition of blockchain under California state law and allowed businesses to transfer equity using distributed ledgers. So let's welcome Mr. Hubbard.
Is that
Hi,
my
Kamal.
brother from another mother? I didn't have my mic on and Kamal is frozen. It's a good day today. What's going on, Kamal? Can you hear me?
Hey, how's it going, Doug? Dr. Ashley, how are you guys today? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Kamal, as you can see, we are tag teaming up to make sure that our listener under the BlackUSA.News is getting not just economic and the commerce news, but the crypto news. Kamal, can you give us a brief history of your background and how you became focused on the emerging world of cryptocurrency? Thank you, my brother. And thank you for taking time to come on our show today. I've had a couple of people ask me about crypto. Uh-oh. Blackout.
We'll just give
be
him
right back.
Give him a few moments, give our audience time to actually get their questions ready. It's such a buzzworthy topic, and I'm really excited for us to have an expert on where we can, again, get all of the facts. I don't know much if you experience this, Doug, in your age group, but I know on social media, a lot of people have been reaching out in the pandemic. Hey, want to tell you how you trade secrets, and hey, let me go ahead and share this. So there's a lot of scamming out there, and a lot of stuff, murkiness to kind of work through. So excited to have Kamal back. So we can
while he adjusts his sound and his picture, I'd like to say this. I've had a couple of people who I know who had family members and friends invest their money with the wrong people and lost everything. So Kamal, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I apologize. I have a really bad connection. Of course, this is the prime time when everybody is watching your show, and it's blocking up my my bandwidth.
Come on, I'm going to shoot that first question at you again, and thank you again for coming on the show, because so many people want to get involved, but they don't have a brother like you, like we have with the BlackUSA.News. Come on, can you give us a brief history of your background and how you became focused on the emerging world of cryptocurrencies? Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me once again, Doug and Dr. Ashley. I came across Bitcoin and blockchain when I was doing some research work, managing research after I finished up law school, doing clerking at courts and things like that. And I actually worked at a legal nonprofit, or a nonprofit law firm, for fair housing. And this was right around the time of the subprime mortgage crisis. Saw a lot of people, black and brown people, losing their homes after they were, sold the American dream under these subprime mortgages, unfortunately. And then, like I said, I managed research at Stanford's Rock Center for Corporate Governance, which is a joint collaboration between Stanford's Law School and the Graduate School of Business. And this is really when the credit crisis had unfolded. So we had moved beyond the subprime mortgage crisis, and it really overflowed into a global credit crisis. And, I researched those cases, and what I kept seeing is this thing called Bitcoin. And it was really created due to the malfeasance of these people in the banks, in a way to allow people to use electronic money in a peer-to-peer fashion, thereby taking the intermediaries out of the equation. So, I thought in seeing that, I was like, wow, it's very interesting. If there's anything to this, it'll be very big. And I first saw stories about it in around 2011. Kept seeing stories through the course of my research. And in 2013, I decided to do some independent research. So I conducted 2 years of independent research. And of course, there was no Bitcoin University at the time. So what I did was I got certified as a certified fraud examiner. I also got certified in cybersecurity because there is a major cybersecurity component to cryptocurrencies. And in 2020, I became certified in decentralized finance. So, really the
Brother,
2 years that I spent.
I got to ask you this. You're a lawyer. You're a certified fraud examiner, which I think you've heard of Tammy Willis, owner of Magnolia Engineering and Construction. She just got her certification.
Yes.
And you are in the crypto. Let's just discuss. You sound like you're from Jamaica.
No, I'm not from Jamaica. I appreciate the work ethic of our Jamaican brothers and sisters for sure, and definitely try and emulate that high standard of work quality, output, and effort once again.
Are you ready for your second question, Mr. Kamal Hubbard?
Can you repeat your question? Unfortunately, the bandwidth here is not the best, and I apologize.
Kamal, as we are both under the umbrella of the Doni Glover and BlackUSA.News, can you share with our audience how you came to know Doni Glover?
Well, that's a good question. One fateful day, my phone rang. I picked it up, and on the other end was this guy, Doug Blacksher. And he said, hey, how would you like to meet the great Doni Glover and have a show on his platform called BlackUSA.News? And, really, the rest was history. I got a chance to meet Doni, and we've had a great conversation, a series of conversations. He's a great role model. He knows so much about publishing, and I can't say enough actually about the two of you guys. So I appreciate you putting me in contact with Doni, and I definitely appreciate Doni's friendship, mentorship, and guidance.
What we have created with the East Coast and the West Coast is a network. And the platform is BlackUSA.News. And it's my honor, Kamal, to be working with you on the same networking platform. My last question, well, I won't say my last question, but we want to get Dr. Ashley a shot in here. How did you and Doni come to realize that BlackUSA crypto news needed to be shared with an audience of your peers on BlackUSA.News? Thank you, Kamal.
Well, we thought about it. There's obviously a lot of information that's coming out around crypto nowadays, and I wanted to share some of the news that I come across and I analyze. And to me, it just made sense. This is our audience throughout the country, really throughout the world. But BlackUSA.News is where we are. And hey, let's just put the crypto in there just so everybody knows what the show is about. And that's how we came to this. We really wanted to make it simple. But there is something that I want to go back to address your question before we got interrupted. you were asking about how do people come across verified information in this crypto space. Well, one, check out the Black USA Crypto News Show. That's one way. And another thing too is you can check out Cage Chain. Cage Chain is one of the longest free weekly newsletters that focuses on blockchain, cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, DeFi, non-fungible tokens, NFTs. And it's a free newsletter. There's no obligation. And what I try to do is in that newsletter, allow people who are beginners in the intermediate phase or even experts a curated midweek newsletter that gives them the news that will help them understand cryptocurrencies better and understand what's going on as new information. Another thing that I do is I help with one-on-one coaching for people who are really just trying to cut to the chase. You can go on YouTube and look at a million, keep scrolling down on crypto videos. How many of those videos are legit? How much of them are, just BS, frankly? That's a toss-up. So what I'm here to do is really just, once again, cut to the chase. Also, my book, DeFi for the Diaspora, goes through the history of money, where we are now, explains blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and decentralized finance in what I feel is a very concise way. The book is no more than 120 pages, so it's a quick and easy read, so people can pick it up, get context, and keep going. And working on the audiobook to be published very soon as well.
Dr. Ashley, pardon me for getting greedy with the questions, but this brother, I met him and I was not being disrespectful to Jamaicans or any other nationality, whether it be white, black, Asian, or other. But there's always been a running joke about Jamaicans working through. So I want my audience to know that I respect all people. Thank you. Dr. Ashley, please.
Absolutely. Kamal, you've conducted extensive research on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchain technology. Can you share in a nutshell what exactly is cryptocurrency for the novice that perhaps maybe has heard the term but isn't really familiar with exactly what it is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question, but I'll try my best. Essentially, there is, if we think of blockchain technology, is the technology that powers cryptocurrency. So just speaking about what blockchain technology is, it's a type of database or a ledger, right? So it's a database that tracks transactions. And if we're talking about a ledger, some people may say, well, what exactly is a ledger? Accountants use ledgers to balance, funds or money. Another way to think of a ledger that I think is an approachable way is a library system, right? If you are checking out a book, when you check it out, it's going to say what the title of that book is, who's checking it out, and when that book is going to be due. And when you check it back in, there's a new entry into the ledger that says that you've checked in the book, right? Another example is a hotel, right? Checking in guests and checking out guests. You know who the guest is, their method and manner of payment, as well as when they're going to be checking out of their hotel room. So it's essentially a database. And these databases are tracking transactions of these currencies and who they're going to and from. Every network or blockchain network has what's called an address, which is essentially akin to an account, a bank account almost, if we're looking at cryptocurrencies from the monetary sense. So funds or coins on a given network are moving from one wallet to another wallet. And that's all the blockchain is tracking. It can also encapsulate other information in that transactional data as well. But as simplistic of an example or definition as possible, that's the best I can do.
And thank you. That was helpful.
Listen, Kamal, my brother, you saw I had my pen up like I was in class again. I know that I can watch the show again, but the information that you are giving is so awesome. How you explain the hotel and the library, a layman like me understands that. So thank you. Kamal, who invests in cryptocurrency, and is this a long-term or short-term prospect? Thank you, sir.
Well, that's a good question. So once again, me doing the research that I did in seeing where the banking system was going and the erosion of public trust in banking and finance that was taking place, that's where I saw how cryptocurrencies could actually benefit society. So it clicked for me very early on, and as it did with a lot of other folks. However, what happens with a lot of people is they get hit with a learning curve of trying to understand what the technology is, how it works, how you distinguish one network or one cryptocurrency from another. You know, like I said, it took me 2 years of just independent research before I entered into the market. And so there's a lot of information. You have to pace yourself. So really, this is not for, you know, somebody who's trying to get in, get out, and become a millionaire really quickly. Sure, you hear about those stories, but there really are few and far between. The reality of the situation is money is becoming more and more digital, especially with what we saw with COVID. You know, we started having coin and cash shortages, and, you know, you're starting to also see the emergence of financial technology tools like Venmo, PayPal, Cash App that facilitate digital payments. So an end run around all that is through cryptocurrencies is, once again, to eliminate those third-party intermediaries. And what's happening now is traditional banking is trying to get into this to make that end run around you, the customer. Right? They're trying to create their solutions. Cash App is a solution. PayPal is a solution. They're all digital. And what they're trying to do is make it easier for people to onboard onto cryptocurrencies through their platforms rather than outside of their platforms, and just be, once again, like the traditional banking system 2.0. So I'm saying that to say, if people are getting into cryptocurrencies now, there's nothing wrong with investing a little bit now and being progressive in terms of how you're going to invest, and treat it like a brand new asset class, right? Just like there's real estate, just like there's stocks, just like there's commodities and all those things. Diversify your overall investments, but also diversify within cryptocurrencies as well, and be there for the long haul. And most likely those people are going to do the best. Now, I say that also to say that this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice or tax advice, because all those things play into getting into cryptocurrencies, once again, for the long haul. And you have to do your own research when it's all said and done. Unfortunately, people will say, hey, Bitcoin is a scam. You know, Bitcoin is a scam. I know people who lost money on Bitcoin, but really a lot of times what happens is because there is this information gap, right? This learning curve that people need to traverse. They trust other people who say, hey, just trust me. I know Bitcoin inside and out. Give me your money and, you know, I'll do right by you. And, you know, people just don't know the risks that are associated with it. There's major market risks that are associated with cryptocurrencies. And then if you put that whole layer of fraud on top of things where people essentially can get over on other people due to their lack of information. It's really a perfect storm for people to, once again, who aren't initiated, who aren't taking the time to do their research, to lose their money wholesale.
Kamal, in those cases, what can we do? We've all heard horror stories, whether people have been taking advantage of financially through Ponzi schemes or again, in one way or another. How can we support those who have been financially taken advantage of? Where can they seek support?
Well, I mean, once again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I am a certified fraud examiner. So, I definitely look at things under a fraud lens. And if anybody wants to reach out to me in order to do an assessment, I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it on a sliding scale as well, because, hey, not everybody has all the money in the world, and they're trying to get crypto so that they can have better outlooks, right? Basically,
While he's blacked out, let me ask you something, Dr. Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
What is the psychological effect of an older person getting their money, thinking that they're investing it in the crypto business and taking a chunk of their life savings? How can that affect a senior citizen who is on a limited fixed income? Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
It's devastating. I think it's one of the biggest betrayals, and especially when people have worked so hard in their youth and mid-age in order to retire and have expectations of what they want the end of their lives to look like. We saw with the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme there that some people even took their own lives in response to that devastation. Kamal, we're happy to have you back.
Kamal,
I'm happy. I didn't want to go anywhere, but like I said, your show is so popular. You're across so many different platforms that I keep getting kicked off, so I'm going to do my best to stay on, but I am having the darndest time. And Comcast, you guys are going to hear from me on this one.
But Kamal, that was an excellent answer to the question that she asked. And while you were gone, I just asked Dr. Ashley, because I've had a lot of people contact me and say, man, what's going on with this crypto? And I put a quarter of my retirement and I lost the money. So I was asking Dr. Ashley, what is the psychological effect of an older person or a married couple to lose such significant resources? And can you give that answer again? So Kamal, because this goes directly to why this platform is here. Mm-hmm. Audience, if you want to get the real, and just not BlackUSA.News, but the real news, is specifically about cryptocurrency, check out Kamal Hubbard show. So, Dr. Ashley, give a Kamal, because he might be getting some calls asking him about the money they lost and how they can get his advice. So, what can you tell Kamal what you were telling me? Thank you.
Sure, and I'll make it brief and then segue to a great question from one of our viewers. But I was just saying that, again, people make investments in their youth or sacrifices. And anytime we make a sacrifice, we want the payoff at the end. And so the idea of one of the biggest betrayal, mistrust, and financial abuse. And for elders, they don't have that time to recoup what is lost. And that type of devastation can lead to a variety of responses. But I would just reference some of the unfortunate devastation that occurred after the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, which also included people taking their own lives. Again, we don't know how someone can respond to devastation, especially when there is a perceived sense of not having the time to rebuild. But Kamal, I want to get your input on this question from one of our listeners. And he's across the screen. I'll just read it to you as you're reconnecting. Let's see. We keep getting him snatched away. Oh.
Dr. Ashley, why don't we do this? I see a question from Anthony L. Harris. Wait a
Right.
minute.
I wanted to pose that to him, but I wanted to wait till to see if.
I was just going to comment. Aren't they on the East Coast? And his wife is Dr. What was her name again? If you know, and if you don't know,
Harris, is that
Dr. Hackley, DDS. Go ahead.
Kamal, we want to pose this question to you from one of our listeners from the East Coast. Can you elaborate on the impacts of cryptocurrency on the Black community? And is there any threat of possible legislation that would cause federal government control?
There's a lot of ways I can answer that question. And I dedicated a complete chapter in my book on regulation, the regulatory environment of crypto. So in DeFi for the Diaspora, which you can pick up at my website, www.KamalRhubbard.com, I dedicated an entire chapter to this. And, you know, that aside, what I do want to take the time out to say is I have created a change.org petition, for the California Reparations Committee to consider an option for reparations payments to be made in cryptocurrencies. So on one hand, my position is I'm for regulation as long as it's sensible regulation. And with everything that's been divested from our community, reparations in crypto, to take the financial entities that have taken advantage of our community over the years, to me, is a very sound proposition. And if I could share some really quick facts or data with you guys, earlier this year, a Harris poll was conducted, and it states that Black Americans are outpacing to owning cryptocurrencies. The study also found that 43% of Black Americans felt that the banking and loan industry has historically treated them unfairly. Additionally, 58% of Black Americans said that they don't feel welcome in traditional financial institutions. Many describe traditional institutions as not meant for Black people and believe that cryptocurrency is the way to build and attain wealth. So this petition is on trend with data in national figure. This is why more Black people, not just in America, but around the world, are embracing cryptocurrencies, because they feel that this is the way towards not so much financial freedom, but financial equity. And if the playing field is leveled for us, all the things that we've been able to accomplish throughout the history, if we can take away those barriers, I mean, a lot of us feel like, hey, it's off to the races. So that being said, once again, California in a lot of ways has not been fair to Black people, as have a lot of other states have not been. So I'm glad that they're considering reparations, but there needs to be an option, because not everybody is going to want it in crypto, but some people may. And for those people,
actually, Doug, while we wait for Kamal to reconnect, this is a wonderful time to just acknowledge our sponsors. So thank you again, Mr. Doni Glover of BlackUSA.News. And again, we want to invite our listeners to tune in to Sister Biz with Nicole and Tamara on Wednesdays. And also, please take in all the invaluable information you're learning this evening. And also tune in to Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays. Learn more about our main sponsor, Ms. Tammy Willis, owner of Magnolia Engineering and Construction, by visiting her website, www.magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com, who's committed to growing with the community of Oakland, California. Connect with Magnolia Engineering and Construction now on all social media platforms. As well, we want to again extend an invitation to our listeners. If you are interested in joining our advertisement family, please contact us using our email address, bbrt2021@hotmail.com.
Dr. Ashley, we had a few extra questions for Kamal. So we'll see if we can. Oh, here he comes. Hey, we must be popular tonight. We just bumping him right off of there. Thank you, Kamal. I think the next question is mine. Kamal?
I missed the question. Sorry about that. What was it?
No. We went to sponsor break. You know, we had to give Donnie his kudos because if it wasn't for Doni Glover, BlackUSA.News would not even have the platform for you and I to reach the masses who have been left behind. Kamal Hubbard, my brother, how does one safely acquire cryptocurrency? Where does a novice start? So if I wanted to go put 10 grand into some audience, I'm just joking too, but 10 grand and buy some crypto, where could I go invest my money and not worry about getting scammed like the Bernie Nader scam scheme process? Thank you. Can you hear me?
No, I mean, I'm just thinking this is a cue that I'm talking too much, unfortunately. So I'm missing your questions. This is, I'm sorry for the folks at home. I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we get that question out? How, and this is very important, how does one safely acquire cryptocurrency and where does a novice start? Thank you, sir.
That's another tough question because, you know, I don't want to endorse any of these platforms, but I will say this: the easiest way, and you know, my preferred way is Cash App. So that's, if I'm going to put one of them out there, it's Cash App. Coinbase is another one. But I've written extensively on how Coinbase is not treating their Black employees or their women employees equally to other employees. So, you know, I have a major political disagreement with Coinbase. They have a great user interface. It's very easy to acquire cryptocurrencies on their platform, but their fee structure is very high. And like I said, they also, during last year's unrest, they were asked if Black Lives Matter, and essentially their response was all lives matter. So, you know, that's cool. You know, it's everyone who gets into this, they'll find their own preferences. And once they do, you know, and sometimes you got to build. And I think the easiest places right now to do it are, or among the easiest places are, Cash App and Coinbase. You know, I hear good things about Robinhood as well as PayPal and Venmo. I don't use those platforms personally because, once again, like I come at crypto from another angle and another approach. It's a little bit more advanced. So I think if people are going to start anywhere, I say start with Cash App. You may have a certain feeling about Jack Dorsey, due to him being the CEO of Twitter. But I consider him one of the better people. But hey, you know what? Coming soon, obviously, crypto is going to be on Facebook as well. So, you know, they're trying to make it very easy for people to acquire crypto on Facebook, and their wallet structure is going to be supported by Coinbase as well. So I don't know. Like I said, I have plenty of commentary about some of these tech firms, but the great thing about cryptocurrencies is, as you learn, you don't need to use any of those platforms to use cryptocurrencies. So keep that in mind. And there's nothing wrong with learning and using those essentially as training wheels. But once you'll figure out you don't need them anymore, and especially due to the fee structure and involved with some of them, and you guys will essentially become your own banks.
Dr. Ash, I think we can get one more question off while we wait for our next guest. And Kamal, you are a wealth of information. Thank you for coming on the show, sir.
Actually, I have the privilege of plugging Kamal's book. So that's actually what I get to segue into. But again, Kamal Hubbard's book, Defy for the Diaspora. And again, the overview of the book shares that one part Black history, one part Black futurism, and also examines the history of money to underscore the economic predicament of the global Black collective in the face of the Great Reset. Kamal, that's sounding like something I need to pick up and purchase for stocking stuffers. If you want and have more questions and interest in learning about cryptocurrencies, please check out BlackUSA Crypto News with Brother Kamal Hubbard on Friday nights as well. Please visit his website, www.kamalrhubbard.com, or his handle, go to his IG page at Kamal R. Hubbard. And you're also on Twitter in that same handle as well. Thank you so much for being with us, Kamal. I've taken copious notes and have questions. I've been tuning in, but will continue to do so.
Well, hey, thanks, Dr. Ashley. Thank you, Doug, for having me. I really wish the conditions of my connection were a lot better so that we could have had a better discussion. But hey, who knows? Maybe you guys can come on my show one day if you don't have something going on a Friday night.
Well, Kamal, we are reaching out to Brianna, so we have a few extra minutes. Can we get those other questions, Dr. Ashley, or a couple more questions? I think we're on the next page, and I'm going to reach out for Brianna because I know she was having some internet problem. So were there some additional questions that we had for our special guest, the Crypto Man?
There weren't. We exhausted them all, and probably poor Kamal too with his connection. But I think in diving in with the book, we definitely. How can we find your book, Kamal? What's the platform? Is it available directly through your website?
Yeah, you can find my book on my website. That's the easiest way to get it. And like I said, very soon, I'm going to post the audiobook because, you know, this message needs to get out to people. And some people, even though they enjoy reading books, they just don't have the time because they're always driving or they're at work or they're cooking, putting food on the table. So the audiobook is something you can play in the background, rewind when you need to. And, you know, it makes it safer if you're behind the wheel as well.
It does.
Do you have a copy of your book, Kamal, so you can show our audience? Because when I saw it, it was one of the most interesting covers I've ever seen on the cover of a book. I guess Kamal Hubbard was right. We are so busy tonight, no one just can't even get in. We have also coming on tonight, Ray Bobbitt. He is going to give us 5 or 10 minutes towards the end of the show. And while we wait to connect back with either Kamal or our guest, Brianna, there you go. You back with us, sir? Well, Dr. Ashley?
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions that I would really like for Kamal to answer is, in his show, he discusses more and he dives more deeply into novice purchasing. And as we know, novice are seniors or young people. And if he can, and I know he said something about coin app and a lot of these other ones, but I was more interested in the black Bitcoin and what he said as it relates to reaching out to the government, putting in money for the many hundreds of years that black people have been working for free, that has built this country to where it is one of the most powerful countries, where it is the most powerful country in the world. But it did not become that way on its own. It became that way because of the free labor. So if you can, or if you have any thoughts on that, can you, and I know it's hard to infiltrate kids, young people, because they have a whole new set of understanding. They're not waiting kumbaya and we shall overcome. They're kicking in doors. Can you explain to our audience the psychological effect on these kids as it relates to hearing the stories of their grandparents, their great grandparents, their great 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 grandparents working for free, and how their mindset is that, hey, you may have gotten free labor off of them, but you gonna come correct here. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Sure. First, I want to acknowledge the commission that Gavin Newsom actually constructed with regard to the advocacy for reparations, and highlight Dr. Cheryl Grills, who's a African American female clinical psychologist in Los Angeles and well known for her work in liberation and civil rights psychology, who I've had the privilege of learning under. But millennials and younger were known as the generations that say this job is not going to abuse me. So I think there is definitely a sense. I think youth may not understand fully the atrocities that happened with slavery unless they were taught and understood that it wasn't just a stand up, I'm not going to do this, but it was a genocide that occurred over 4 centuries and included the systematic dismantling of language, of community, of unification. And we're still feeling those after effects today, as in my generation and younger. Have debates every day, especially in the Black community, men versus women, relationships, and other aspects of connection that are rooted in infighting. But back to your question, with Kamal, what he mentioned, Cash App, Venmo, these are things that the younger generations were familiar with. We're paying bills this way. We're, no longer checks. I grew up, I can age myself, under 40, but my parents definitely taught me how to write checks. I watched them write checks. I write checks. I still have checks, but honestly, everything is electronic now. You can go to the hairdresser, pay with the check. Everything is instantaneous. So I think what's really exciting too to see is that people are opting to be compensated using cryptocurrency. So we've started to see professional athletes negotiate part of their contracts, including being paid through Bitcoin and other ways. And so oh yeah, it's a big deal. We are in the digital age. And I really too wanted to dive into, I was one of those frustrated parties that was having a hard time accessing coins that I needed, quarters, during the pandemic. But it just shows that, again, there's an opportunity for us to advance. And sometimes the Black and Brown communities, we can be left out of conversations or be late to the party of access to information.
Well, let me just say this. Since we're having a little technical difficulties with Brianna, I want to elaborate on the kids part. And I want to say this because, I'm learning to be politically correct now. I'm learning to calm my pat, and I'm learning from you, Dr. Ashley. You sit there so calm and cool. So keep doing that because it's rubbing off on me. Thank you, Doctor. But since we have a minute, across this country, we see school districts with parents coming with guns, threatening our local school administration, our local school board. So damn the national stuff. Let's go block by block, town by town, county by county. What do you think? And this is audience, we're just shooting out here because I want our audience to be educated and mentally prepared to what's getting ready to happen regarding the critical race theory.
Yes.
There you go. Hey, Dr. Ashley, I do a little reading now.
Yes.
Can you explain, in your opinion, audience, this is Dr. Ashley's opinion, why are so many people against teaching history, real history, the critical race history? Why is it such an uproar that a group of Americans find it so unconscionable to teach all kids what happened and how this country was built? And if you know, Dr. Ashley, because I have my thoughts, but I'd rather hear yours first before I shoot mine out there. Can you give us your thoughts on why one group does not want everyone to understand how this country was truly built on the backs of free labor that generated generational wealth, and how the kids are almost like pawns in this, teaching reality versus what they want us to believe? Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Sure. I have to acknowledge the African American Policy Forum, AAPF, that is spearheaded by Kimberly Crenshaw, who's an African American female attorney and professor. And I have to highlight one of the executives in her company, Sharmina Nelson, who's an attorney and a dear friend of mine and a fellow Howard Bison. So this work is really important. So I smiled because Sharmina and Kimberly have been in the trenches with regard to the Say Her Name campaign and other national efforts to bring awareness to gun violence, critical race theory, social justice work. And they have headquarters in New York and Los Angeles. But to respond to your question, Doug, I saw a meme, so I'm going to age myself again as a millennial, that said Ruby Bridges, who we know integrated schools. The meme says, now the people that were teasing Ruby are in positions of power, preventing her story from being shared. And so
Audience, I have Ray Bobbitt on the phone, and he's checking his schedule. We're going to see if he can bump up and tell us this great news of how the first African American sports and entertainment group, president of it, Ray Bobbitt, how he feels about that great victory to move this forward. Ray, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well, do you have time to come on? We have some time here, so we'd love to hear. Because I spoke 3 times for you the other night, and let me tell you something. It was an honor to be a part of this historic moment.
Thank you very much. Is it okay to talk from this line, or should I call back in?
No. Hey, we got you on, man. Hey, you are a world figure, so everyone knows your voice. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you for having me on, Doug. I appreciate it, and I'm always grateful to be on your show. You have such a great objective, and you're just a class act. So thank you so much for having me on.
Well, can you tell us? We were talking about the critical race theory, but we're gonna put that on pause because once we get, and Dr. Ashley and myself, we are Oaklanders for life. Now, you may be down in LA, Dr. Ashley, but once we get everything going, these sports players are going to need some good psychological sports therapy. So we're going to bring you back up here. Ray,
oh yeah.
Ray, can you tell us now, because there was another allegedly black group trying to purchase the rights at the Oakland, and you won't have to mention them because I surely will. How you think the Oakland City Council, who, from my understanding, voted unanimously?
Yes, they did.
Can you share with our audience that goes coast to coast, north to south, basically around the world, how you are navigating the AASE to infiltrate and become part of business, economics, and commerce within the NFL and the sports and entertainment group? Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. It's a historical moment in Oakland for us and what we've accomplished with respect to being able to gain access and be awarded the opportunity to develop the most valuable and largest piece of public land west of the Mississippi. And this is the first time, this is the largest transfer of land of African Americans in this part of the country. And so, of course, just in Oakland, in our blood and in our water out here, we are regularly challenging systematic processes. And so there was a disparity study that came out in Oakland with respect to looking at the displacement, the gentrification of our community from the city, as well as looking at the contracts and the awards of development and the use of contracts for women and people of color that came out, and particularly with respect to African Americans. And so when we embarked upon this situation to really utilize this incredible, iconic, piece of land where all of these iconic sports teams from Oakland have played, the Raiders, the A's, the Warriors, all champions, a lot of parades in Oakland, of course. And so when we went to the NFL to tell them we wanted to be the first African-American majority-owned NFL football ownership group, our reasoning was twofold. It was because 75% of the players in the NFL are African-American. And in addition to that, we felt like it was just really important for African Americans to have presence with respect to ownership. And so, so one of the two things that they gave us in the framework was, where are you going to play and where are you going to get the money? And so, obviously for us, we took that seriously. And one of the first objectives that we had was to go out and make sure that we secured the Coliseum site. But in doing that, what we realized is that our development of the Coliseum site wasn't contingent upon getting a football team. Once we got into this process, we understood that it was going to be hard for us to achieve it. But more importantly, it became more about us revitalizing our community and making sure that the people who are the most marginalized and impacted that live in this community, which is an African-American community, needed to play a role and participate. So we felt like, moving this process forward was critical for the presence, and to use sports and entertainment as an economic vehicle to create economic opportunity for people within our community. So in doing that, we kind of have achieved two objectives. A, we're going to redevelop this site with everything from education to quality affordable housing, life sciences, entertainment, sports, arts, culture, education, so on and so forth, so our community can benefit and get equity from this project. But also we're going to bring some unapologetic African-American owned sports franchises to Oakland, and where else but Oakland, because we are known for our sports, we're known for our education, we're known for a lot of things. But the thing we're really known for is our social justice movements, from the Black Panther to, Black Lives Matter was the term was created here. Occupy. I mean, we are known for challenging the system with respect to social justice. So this was natural. And for us to break the barrier with respect to our own city, it was just incredible. And people are celebrating it all day to day. And it's just been a beautiful thing.
You know, Dr. Ashley, jump in anytime. This brother and me, I've adopted you as my little brother now. I hope you know that, man.
Yeah,
But let me
that's
tell you,
okay.
let me
That's
tell you
good.
something,
That's
Ray. This
excellent.
show, this network, BlackUSA.News, we support you 100%. We support your fight. And I say that to say this. When you were talking in front of the city council, the other side alleged that you guys had done none of the things that you have done. And I know that to be a downright lie. I am the chair of the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club. And I remember last year when you reached out to Pamela Price, who's running for district attorney, you reached out to Howard Eggerman, who is our president, and a host of other organizations. Can you clear the air so we can put this to rest? One of the past city council's chief of staff, flunkies, or whatever you want to call them, made some outrageous statements. And you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Can you clear it? Because he did it in a meeting and I had to check him in. So now that we have an audience that goes from coast to coast, north to south, can you clear up any false information that has been alleged specifically as it relates to this being a black money, all black money investment by black people who look like you, me, and you on the phone, and Dr. Ashley, and everybody else who looks like you and me? But can you clear that up? Because I am tired of hearing it, and I'm tired of them lying like that. And that's why they lost the bid.
You know, I've committed to not ever publicly fighting with black people. And no matter how they come, no matter what the circumstances are, I'm not going to have a fight publicly with another black person, because so I'm at a disadvantage with respect to people who may want to take shots and who may want to be critical, because if I engage that, then they've won. They've really essentially done something that we are typically led to do.
Well, I tell you what, Ray, let me clear that up for the audience. You don't have to fight Ray. You have to fight Doug Blacksher, and that's a bigger fight. So let me tell you.
What I'm saying though, Doug, is that there's enough people in our community who speak up for me and speak up for our group that I don't even really need to say anything. You know, and the truth of the matter is that many people spoke that day, and the city council after that person spoke, and it was 50 or 60 people spoke, plus 30 or 40 on the line who wanted to speak on behalf of us. There was 3 or 4 people that spoke on that behalf, and so it gives you an indication of our community input and our community support. And so when you have that kind of community support, you don't really need to say anything, because the people will just say it for you. And so what it allowed me to do is just to keep myself in a high road position and not allow people to kind of lure me into a position where I'm publicly, you know, fighting with my own people. Right. So my thing was that I'm just going to just stay focused, because this is so critical. It's such a critical moment. It's such a historical moment. We can't allow it to be impacted by this back and forth situation. And so I stayed out of that this whole time. And I always thought to myself, like, if at the highest levels we can't get along with each other, and we allow for ourselves to be pitted against each other, and we allow for ourselves to buy into the Willie Lynch and to the you know, conflict with each other, I can't lead the community from the standpoint of these 120 murders we got out here, and these, which a lot of them are young black men, you know, hurting each other. You know, so how am I supposed to lead and be in a position like that if I'm engaging in that same type of situation? So what I said and what I did is I just lay back and just let the people speak on behalf of what we're doing and how positive it is. And that is the reason why we got a unanimous vote. It was really about the overwhelming, and all the city council people said it. They said that the AASEG, their community outreach, their ground game as far as connecting with the people in the community was something they had never seen before, ever. In the history. They were trying to remember the last time they seen a development group meet with 50 organizations before they even submit a proposal. Because we know our community, and we know that if you don't go and check in with people and check with the elders and check with the community people, that you could have a lot of conflict because people have different perspectives. But if you take all that information in and you let people be a part of the process, they're going to support you.
Dr. Ashley, because I'm hogging it now. I feel like I'm been playing basketball and I'm just give me the ball, that's mine. So Dr. Ashley, can you address in front of our special guest, Ray Bobbitt, how a class act he is being for our young people out there? And once again, Ray, I agree with you. Engaging, okay, some of you might want to turn your ears off, but white people like seeing us fight each other, and we end up losing everything. Dr. Ashley, can you explain how important it is that Ray Bobbitt is being a shining example of a class act of what our young people can see, how even if we can disagree, we don't have to destroy each other disagreeing. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Sure. First, Ray, I want to say congratulations on this milestone and continued success as AASEG advances their platform and influence. And I think it's just, as Ray stated, there are 120 murders happening. Young people right now grew up in reality television, so they've seen petty, and we've been, made to be exploited, and the image of what strength looks like and what we do for money. And I just think the high road, not only does it validate Ray's moral compass, which he talked about his faith when he was on our show, but it also, again, is role modeling that we need, that there are many ways to solve conflicts. And that doesn't have to mean violence. That doesn't even have to be, again, disagreement can be mature. And then there's some things that you let roll off of your back and that you don't have to respond to. And so I think that's great role modeling. And let's just also be honest. A lot of people have been sidetracked in life with distractions. Engaging in petty, he said, and making statements would take his eye off of the prize. He's so close. It's a moment of success. So you have to let things roll off of your back and keep going. So absolutely, I hope our youth picked up on that and just showed that there's congruence based on what he says and what he plans to do. And we need more of that.
And and thank you so much. I have to say this, just to address the second part. Our collaboration, our group is a collaborative. It's a collective of multiple African American owned businesses, and we wanted to make sure, even in our title of our organization, we put African American because we wanted to just be clear about what our objectives were. And we didn't want people to have to wonder who we were, and we didn't want to shy away from who we were. And so we wanted to show that African Americans can work together and collaborate with each other for a common goal. And with respect to our money, anybody that knows Loop Capital from Chicago, and even though they're from Chicago, they know that Jim Reynolds and Rufus Williams and the gentlemen that run Loop Capital, they're the largest African American investment banking firm in the country, largest minority owned. And they've put more people of color on Wall Street than any other organization. And they've managed, $4 trillion. And so we're talking about Black people from Chicago who really understand the financial process and have been so kind to come and be our capital partners. And we're so blessed to have them as capital partners because there were so many things that people tried to do in this process and try to make it to obstruct us and try to create false narratives. that a typical capital partner might have left. And they were trying to intentionally, in my opinion, exhaust us and get us frustrated. But because we had these brothers who said, we're with you no matter what, we get it, we're going to rock with you, we're doing this, let's do it. We're happy to be here in Oakland from Chicago. And it's important to know that they've been underwriting bonds in Oakland for 23 years, so they're familiar with our city. And so they came and they said, let's do this. And no matter what steps in front of us, let's keep moving forward. So yes, we have a gatekeeper of our capital that's Black, and they understand money. They understand the process. They understand financing. And so we're really, really grateful that we can, because we've been so transparent about everything in our group, and we can say proudly that, that they have been behind us 100%. And the final thing I'll say about this, you can't really say whatever you want to say anymore in this world. You used to be able to, and I hate to use these kind of analogies, but the streets kind of got it right, and prison got it right, because people used to be able to come and say, "Oh, this guy's a snitch," and somebody might get killed for that or hurt. Yeah. But now the streets and the prisons say you got to show paperwork. Just because you say something about somebody doesn't mean it's true. And now in business, we have this thing that they created called Google. So if you have questions about my capital partner, and how Black people can be successful, you should do something. It's called hit Google, because you can't just say what you want to say anymore, because of the technology and the process of being able to get information and facts so quickly. So I was never really concerned about, whether somebody tried to doubt us because we're Black and we have Black capital and we got all these successful Black people working together, because there's Google, there's ways to fact check, and you just can't get away with just saying what you want about anybody anymore and not having to be able to check it.
Ray, let me be perfectly clear. You are lighting it up, man. As you can tell, and from the time I met you and your group, and you guys came in front of our organization, I have been behind this 150%. And audience, when I say Ray shrugged off with his class act attitude and group, Shonda Scott, Alan Doan, John Jones, you have a team of class act people who are like-minded thinkers like you. They choose not to engage in this attack a Black week. And Dr. Ashley, I always got a rap on something. That's what, white people want us to do. They want us to attack a Black week. If they get half of America to attack a Black week on the other half, then we can never grow. Ray, you have demonstrated professionalism. You've demonstrated being what a hell of a businessman is. And we, not just here in Oakland, California, not here on the West Coast, but all across this nation, we are watching you, and the momentum that you are building up in Oakland, you are starting a fire in other communities across this nation. So let's continue this. Oh, Lord have mercy. Wait a minute. Guess who showed up, Ray?
Who?
Our girl, our social warrior, justice lawyer, Janani Ramachandran.
Oh, wow.
Janani, we have Ray Bobbitt on the phone. And Janani, you can tell us where you are.
I'm in New York right now, taking a quick pause out of Oakland. Happy to be here, though. We are a nationwide show, so.
Well, are you aware of what happened at the city council yesterday, Janani? Because Ray's talking about it. Brianna from Mulatto Meadow, she has some technical difficulty. But I would like for you and Ray, because you are a social justice warrior, and Ray Bobbitt is an economic justice warrior. So let me put these two warriors together and shoot a few questions out. Janani, did you see that city council where Ray Bobbitt got up and he was a class act guy? Dr. Ashley, give me a second because I had my boxing gloves on yesterday in front of the my mirror saying, I can't wait because I spoke 3 times at city council yesterday. What did you observe with the class act professional of AASEG? Speak on it, please, Janani.
Well, unfortunately, I wasn't at the meeting. I was at a court hearing at the time, but I read every live tweet about it, every article, every Facebook comment saying that the room was lit up, that this is a historic moment for Oakland and this is the direction forward. So while I can imagine what the virtual room felt like in that moment, and really excited for everything that's to come for ASEG, for Ray Bobbitt, for Oakland. Thank you for your leadership, Ray.
Thank you, and your leadership has been phenomenal. And it's just such an honor to talk to you. I think that being able to be in a position where you have a vision of change and being willing and having the courage to move forward is a unique characteristic that we both, I believe, possess. So it's really exciting. And we're just talking about the process and just how important it is for us as African Americans, specifically to be able to navigate through some of the characteristics and things that people typically want to see us do, which is be in conflict with each other. And so it was really refreshing. And I just kind of finished explaining why I never engaged and why I always make sure that I don't ever allow for anybody to see me have public conflict with people within my community, because I think we're just kind of, as a community, it's outdated to be in conflict with each other. Like we really are in a position now where I've seen us want to cooperate and collaborate way more than we ever have. And so I'm really excited about that. It's something that's catching a serious momentum. We are self-helping and we are self-promoting. And it's just something that is a phenomenal thing that's happening, because we are going back and we are making sure that we're pulling up the people in our community that are the most marginalized and the most impacted. And so it's a beautiful thing. And you see so many people going back and cooperating and all helping each other. And so it's so similar just to the cultural aspect of when we were in slavery and we would go back and help people to freedom. And, with Harriet Tubman, she went back and she risked herself to bring people out of that situation. So oftentimes people don't talk about African Americans from the standpoint of us being the largest growing middle class in America and how well our community is doing. Oftentimes the focus is on the negative in our community and the impactful marginalization and hurt that we can cause each other at times in our desperation. But now that we've consciously become more clear with respect to what direction we need to be in and how we can, create our own opportunities within our community, is something that is just sweeping across this country, and it's a beautiful thing. And where else to really, really magnify it than Oakland, California, where we are really at the right in the middle of change.
Ladies, I'm gonna sit back because we have working with less than 17 minutes, but we have, audience, a historical moment here in Oakland, California. And we are joined, Dr. Ashley and I are joined by Ray Bobbitt of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group and our social justice warrior, Janani Ramachandran. Ray, I want to point out something you just said. Like-minded people. And you referred to Janani. Audience, that's what we have to do. In order to achieve any goal, we need to have like-minded people talking and articulating and coming to the table and making sure that there's a difference. Dr. Ashley, can you tell us how important it is that in front of City Council yesterday, and Ray, if you can briefly talk about that after Dr. Ashley, about how you must have felt when you got the green light. And that's a song too, Green Light. Dr. Ashley, can you tell us how important it is for what Ray said on how important it is for us to get together and stop arguing and stop fighting? Because last week we had Chief Armstrong, because I'm on the Community Police Advisory Board, and let me tell you something. There was over 40 people in the Tola Heights district who came to see Chief Armstrong and his officers and talk about crime and how to address it. And can you explain how important that is for our young people to see that instead of all this other named one group calling another group, and they're both Black groups? Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Well, I think, and I'm sure Janani can relate as well in taking the high road and understanding, it's important to model perseverance. And again, how to get over distractions, how to ignore things in order to keep your eye on the prize, and understanding that even when someone tries to attack reputation, as Ray mentioned, someone like young people, we say we can always pull the receipts and Google and find out what we do. But more importantly, it takes time and energy and attention away from the focus of the goal to stop and explain as an ego to someone who's not up there with you what you're doing. Just let your character and the work will speak for itself. As Ray mentioned, the people will speak for you, but so will the results. And I'm curious too with City Council, since we have Janani here as well, to hear a little bit too about redistricting, because that's coming up. And just again, as we talk about City Council, what's up ahead for our beautiful city of Oakland.
Janani?
Absolutely. So I think the conversation of redistricting can tie into any issue that's in front of City Council. But if we look right now in this current council and the appetite and enthusiasm for passing everything that happened yesterday, that depends on who's electing these representatives. And who people get to elect depends on how the district lines are drawn, both for city council and school board races. And every 10 years, based on census data, the lines change based on population growth. And the goal is to make sure that we have diverse districts, but also districts that have distinct voices. So historically, those boundary lines were intended to divide the power of the Black vote and other marginalized communities as well. But it started with trying to dilute the power of African Americans in the United States. And people became aware of it. Well, people were aware of it. That's why they consciously did it in the first place. But erasing that legacy of trying to dilute the power of non-white votes has become increasingly urgent. I mean, this is not just, oh, this is an important issue. This is the power of, does my voice matter or not? It's one person, one vote, one citizen, one vote. This is a constitutional right to make sure your voice is heard. But based on how lines are drawn, and there are some very problematic maps proposed for Oakland and proposed for cities across California and across the country that are still trying to divide the power of the non-white vote, but particularly in this moment of the vote of the African American community. And it's hard to often connect the dots to think, why does the lines matter? I'm in one council member's district, I'm in another, I don't like any of them anyway. But it does matter, so that being involved in the process, whether it's for the city of Oakland, whether it's for the county of Alameda, or whether it's for your city assembly or state senate districts, absolutely matters. So I can speak on Oakland's process because I've attended most of the meetings and been reading as many public comments as possible. Oakland, for the first time in history, has an independent commission redrawing these lines. It's historically been the city of Oakland and been city council that's been tasked with this. An independent commission is great because we get to rethink what equity means, what keeping communities together means, what making sure the distinct vote of different community members isn't diluted. Unfortunately, because the city has had very little time to work with the new census data, and frankly, in my opinion, are using consultants who have probably never stepped foot in Oakland before, it seems like, these maps are cutting across all sorts of communities. And when we talk about voter disenfranchisement and where in Oakland people are showing up to vote versus where are they not, there's no clearer example than this redistricting process. No shade to Rockridge, but Rockridge is one of the widest, wealthiest communities in Oakland, and their voice is being heard loud and clear because they are politically mobilized, because they have the time and resources to politically mobilize and make sure that any of the maps that decided to divide Rockridge were axed immediately so that their community can stay together. When did we start hearing from voices in D5, 6, and 7? Barely in the past couple of weeks, because people didn't know about the process and there wasn't the ability to engage. And to give you an example, in the Fruitville area, the commission initially decided, okay, we're going to do some outreach. Let's go to Dia de los Muertos and spread the word, have some Spanish speakers. What they realized was, as soon as they directed people to the website to voice their opinion, the entire website's only in English. So that outreach meant absolutely nothing. Same thing with so many community groups, particularly in the particularly in East Oakland, both the hills and the flats. There was no outreach to neighborhood associations, to NCPCs, to established community groups that would have loved to have been a part of the process more early on. And with all due respect, this commission is trying their best. They want to be fair, but it is a very, very labor-intensive process to make sure that voices are heard. My neighborhood, I live in the Laurel, which is a very diverse part of Oakland, where community ties are strong. People in my neighborhood have been there for generations, and I have friends and family in this area as well. And maps were proposing to divide my community in 4 different directions. And just because Rockridge residents didn't always have the time, energy, or political know-how to show up at these meetings, that's why these maps are being proposed. And so that, because people didn't realize this is an important issue and we don't know the districts as well, so we need to do our homework. Sorry, I rambled on about that process.
Oh, no. Between you and Ray Bobbitt, you guys are right on time. Can you tell our audience how it can affect the first African-American sports and entertainment group if the redistricting is not done correctly, and we know many Black people do not vote, and this is a shout out. Get off of your butts and go register to vote and then vote. Can you explain that process about if they divide it up? Because you have firsthand understanding of how this will determine if we get a city council who does not look like all the city, and how that would affect Ray and his organization to be successful. Thank you.
Erasure. Oakland has already lost a significant, over 20%, I believe, of our Black population in the past 2 decades. And removing the number of city council members from areas that are majority African American is going to dilute that vote. And, it's often, yes, about getting a council member that reflects these identities, but most importantly, getting a council member that understands these identities, that grew up around their neighbors in Oakland, that understand the specific needs. And one of those things involves economic development. The Coliseum, as we've talked about on the show for a while, the area around the Coliseum almost seems like it was purposefully underdeveloped, and that the wealth that could have come from this Coliseum over years, not just recently, but over decades, that wealth has not been captured by the city and has flowed to other cities. And there are many complicated reasons, I know, behind the fact that the Coliseum, the area surrounding the Coliseum, is not as strong as it could be. Some of those reasons include purposeful decisions made by city council and allies that don't have the interests of the community in mind. It often, history has shown that our city council has often been influenced by greed and power and corruption. And I am so glad to have a council now that is trying to move past that and think more deeply about what equity means, what economic development for Oaklanders actually means, and how to capture the wealth that could stem from an incredible project like what ASIG is about to do with the Coliseum. And I am so excited for this new chapter.
You know, we're working with less than 6 minutes. Ray, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Janani, I know you're going to always be here, not only for this show, for BlackUSA.News, but for the city of Oakland. And we here at the Black Business Roundtable, BlackUSA.News, we support you when you run again 150%. I loved how you were able to articulate how the redistricting is going to affect not only the people who live in the city, but economics and commerce. So, Ray Bobbitt, as we close out, can you share some what we can do in this city, in this county, in this state, and in this country to support your efforts to continue to bring the first African-American Black-owned NFL sports professional team here in Oakland? Thank you, sir.
Well, I think that first of all, we have to continue to realize that the people matter. And that was the reoccurring theme at every city council person stated prior to giving their yes vote, which was a unanimous vote. The thing that separated us from the 4 other suitors of this project was our community outreach and being able to go to the community and ask them exactly what the needs were and the best way to reach executing and fulfilling those needs. And that was crucial. And we were there, and people really enjoyed what they heard. They liked what they heard. They really liked it because when we finally did our proposal, it included everything that they had already talked about. We had a town hall meeting where we had 375 slots available, and they all got taken just because people want to be involved and they want to hear. And the way we presented the process was that they would have a chance to give input. So when we broke up into the 3 groups of public services and community benefits was one group. We broke up into housing and development was another group, and then the last group was sports and entertainment, arts and culture. And we went and we broke it down. We took notes. We took in all the information. We made sure we recorded it, and we were able to take the information from the community and with respect to their interest in equity and so on and so forth, and really incorporate it into an incredible proposal. So when people think about the fact that we were able to get a unanimous vote against organizations that were much larger per se, our collaboration and our collective efforts of bringing people together was just phenomenal. And what it showed is that the community's voice is really, really different than it ever was before. If the community sticks together and the community decides that they want to move something, they're going to move it. And so it was just really, you asked me what I felt after we got the green light. And it was just a sense of like emotion, because what I realized is that the people had spoken and the people had made a decision. And it manifests itself through a city council that really got that message and understood it and acted on it. And so I think that when you ask what else people can do, it's that we have to mobilize around this model of being able to be in our communities and bring economic opportunity to our people. And one of the things that we have is we have 16 million square feet of development footprint. And technically, if we do this correctly, that can be 30 or 40,000 jobs. And if you think that young people in this community that are marginalized would either if they had a choice between doing things that they had to do out of desperation versus being able to work, they're going to pick work every time. They all want an opportunity. That's all they want. And so we're providing that opportunity. And what people can do with us is that once we've gotten past the City of Oakland piece, we're going to have to go to these sports leagues. We're going to have to go and make sure we get collaborations. And we just need support. And that groundswell of community in the trenches, organic support is what got us here. And that's what's going to keep us moving forward.
Ray Bobbitt, we are working less than 1 minute, but I just want to say this. We're going to go over a minute or two. First off, you are always welcome on the Black Business Roundtable. Thank you for coming on. Under BlackUSA.News, and congratulations to your victory. Dr. Ashley, as always, it is an honor to ride with you on this show and make a difference in not only our community, our city, our county, our state, but in our country, because our audience is growing based on the people who are bringing the real Black news to USA. Janani Ramachandran, your articulation and education on the redistricting process. Audience, if you weren't enlightened, you should be, based on what she said. The Republicans are doing redistricting all across this country to position themselves into making it more difficult for economic development and commerce development. Start voting or stop complaining. I'd like to also thank Doni Glover, BlackUSA.News. Doni, you are awesome, and without you, we wouldn't have a show and a platform to educate not only the city of Oakland or the city of Baltimore, but the country. Magnolia Engineering and Construction, based here in Oakland, California. Tammy Willis, keep up the great work, and we appreciate your sponsorship. Audience, we'd also have a network of shows hosted by Doni Glover, such as Chap and Friends on Monday, Party Marty, Let's Talk on Tuesday. Dr. Ashley, every time I say Party Marty, I just start hopping back, so excuse me. Party Marty on Tuesday, Sister Biz with Nicole and Tamara on Wednesday, Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard, our guest speaker, who articulated what crypto is and to a novice how to get involved. Watch his show and learn and listen. Audience, thank you for tuning in. And remember, together, we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blacksher of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless you, and good night. Thank you all.